Good morning, Jake.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. So I sent the scope of work over to the commissioners to look at previously. I don't know if you have any specific questions for Jake on the Bear Creek scope of work. Do you have any questions for Jake on that? Do you want to kind of go through the scope of work, Jake, and outline what it says and what it doesn't cover?
Absolutely. Do you, does everybody have a copy?
Everybody had a copy. I've got one more here. And then I've got the one with the agreement actually on it.
Just a minute, I'm gonna make a couple copies.
Two.
Yeah, that's good. You can mail it.
Yeah. I emailed it. I put it on the agenda.
Oh, maybe that's where
I can share my screen as well if that would be easier for you guys.
That's great. Okay, and then
Can everybody see it okay?
yeah, that's great.
Great. All right, well, we can get, I can get started on going through this with you guys. And then if you have any questions, feel free to stop me and ask those. So putting this scope of work together, there's a couple assumptions to make, one of which was the analysis. When looking at this project, due to the nature of the failure, I spoke to Lance and we discussed it internally, and we feel that it's important that we look at this in two separate phases. We do an analysis phase with the geotechnical, doing a landslide investigation, and then we come up with some design alternative ideas for fixing the roadway out there. And so that would be phase one, really is just getting a look at it, doing the geotechnical investigation, and we'll sit down and coordinate and consult with the geotechnical engineer to come up with the best fix to fit you guys' needs. And then in the second phase, we would scope out the design portion of the project where we implement all of the information and plan that we obtained during the analysis phase. As part of the analysis, we'll conduct a couple of site visits with the Bonneville County personnel, the geotechnical engineer on site, and come up with a plan, address any safety concerns, make our observations and notes, and it'll help us also kind of implement the procedure for the geotechnical investigation. We will conduct a topographic and feature survey we'll get the horizontal, vertical information for the roadway and slope surfaces. We have terrestrial scanners, so they'll give us, essentially like a three-dimensional view of the landslide and the roadway surface to see, so that we can get correct quantities and help determine the extents, and for use also with the design phase of the project. We'll conduct a drone flight to obtain aerial imagery of the failure. This will just kind of, this will give us a nice broad picture of it. You will be able to also, hopefully be able to see if the slope is moving beyond the extent of where you see road failure. This will just kind of give a full picture view of the slide. all the survey information will draft into AutoCAD Civil 3D for use in the design phase. The geotechnical landslide investigation task 3 on this is really the meat of this phase of the project. We've engaged Shannon and Wilson and received their scope of work of have it attached to the one. It's attached to this one. It should be attached to the one you guys have in front of you as well. Shannon and Wilson will conduct their geotechnical investigation. I've outlined this task here, and we can go over it after we finish this scope of work on just what they plan to do, and I can answer questions you guys might have on that. But they'll perform reconnaissance and advanced preparations. Like I said previously, they'll attend a site visit with ourselves and Bonneville County personnel. They'll conduct subsurface explorations, laboratory testing, data development analyses, where we'll be consulting with them heavily for the design phase of the project and their reporting. In this, I'd included the coordination with Shannon and Wilson. We want to make sure that we're getting the fix that, again, best suits the county's needs for this slide, and also is a permanent solution that keeps public safety in mind. Right now, geotechnical anticipates about 19 weeks from notice to proceed to conduct their investigation. The analysis will, include the roadway sections and the base section of the roadway, and then the slope analysis to determine if it was a failure just in the pavement area or if it's a whole slope failure. The project coordination and administration task really is coordination for the meetings and coordination with the sub-consultants and scheduling. Project coordination will do monthly conference calls to keep the team up to date and coordinate with Bonneville County on where we're at with each phase of the project. Up to this point, is there any questions for the tasks we have outlined here? Again, we'll go over the geotechnical scope here shortly. Okay. So the fees on this, the geotechnical investigation being as extensive as it is for a landslide, that's really where the bulk of the fees comes from, is geotechnical investigations coming in right around $91,000. Is higher than we had anticipated, but not surprising based on, the event that's happened out there. And if I'm going too quickly or you guys have any questions, feel free to stop me. The site visits I'd included in the fees just to get out there, like I said, get eyes on the site, coordinate for safety, and come up with our plan of attack for completing the analysis phase. This field survey, we'll have a couple guys out there. It'll take them 2 or 3 days to go out. They'll go out and they'll take traditional GPS elevation shots and for building the contour map, and they'll also use a terrestrial scanner to scan the slope to give the best picture we possibly can of the failure. And this is really instrumental in the design of the repair for the roadway. And as part of the survey, we'll draft all this into AutoCAD Civil 3D so we can do quantities and complete the design. Task 3, we have our fees for consultation coordination with Shannon and Wilson. This is really in preparation for the design phase and determining the best alternative design implementation for the failure. And then task 4, just some time for project meetings and coordination on the project. Attached to the last is the scope of services for the geotechnical engineer. So Shannon Wilson will submit and landslide investigation report at the end of their analyses. They'll submit that to Keller Associates, and this will include all the information they obtained up to that point. We will have we'll do the final plans and specifications with Shannon Wilson and ourselves in the second phase of the project after we have all the information. The scope of services, as I outlined in the scope of work on the Keller Associates scope of work, reconnaissance and advanced preparation, subsurface exploration, laboratory testing, data development, analysis, and reporting. The reconnaissance and advanced preparations is, the bulk of the field work for Shannon Wilson. They'll include that they have included for the initial site visit for access and site safety. I know that there are some Jersey barriers out there placed right now, and they intend to build a drill pad for the rig. They'll advance some borings for core samples and be able to do their sieve testing and everything from that. So we'll coordinate with Lance and Bonneville County on moving the Jersey barriers, or having a subcontractor to remove the Jersey barriers at the time that the drill rig is out there, and then replacing them once they are completed. Shannon Wilson prepares project-specific field investigation instructions for Shannon Wilson field personnel. It's all internal for them to maintain safety and make sure that they're following protocol and obtaining all the necessary information. They intend to subcontract a drilling contractor and to build a drill pad and prepare for the scope of services for the subcontractors themselves. They'll request quotes, and so they'll handle their subcontractors as part of their scope and fees. The utility clearances for drill hole locations, not intended to, we don't anticipate really that there's much out there, but they'll again still meet with Digline to ensure that, no utilities go down as part of our investigation. The subsurface explorations, this is where they'll use the drill pad and advanced borings. They anticipate to go 45 feet below ground surface. And they'll continue with, they'll do some standard penetration tests and then get their field logs, take their samples back to their office for their laboratory for further analysis, and then any documentation that they do out in the field. Laboratory testing for this will, most of it will be with the core samples that they do out there. Disposal is also included in here, minor details. Data development analysis. This is where, Keller Associates will be heavily involved in this portion to determine the best option for implementing a design and a repair for the roadway. And then in the reporting portion of their scope, we'll get a final report to help us make the final determination and have something to provide to Bonneville County in order to facilitate the decision for the design alternative that would like to be selected. There are some coordination items in here just for project meetings. Like I said, we'll do those twice a month, and answering any questions that we might have or the county would have. There are several understandings in their scope of work, just due to the nature they're making some assumptions and leaving that, as they find the information and get more data, they're able to implement their plan previously that may not be outlined in here, as it'll be, kind of a moving target at the very beginning. And that's, really the 2 site visits that I had placed in our scope and they have in theirs is anything that comes up, we'll be able to get our heads together and figure out a plan of attack for this. Is there any questions for me on what we've talked about here? Sorry about that light in my face.
I had one on your key understandings about the 10 to 12 hour day. If it goes over a 10-hour day, do they bill us extra?
No, they're anticipating this as part of their as part of the work, and so they've built this into their fees. The 10 to 12 hour day is just travel time to and from the site, and so they're anticipating that there'll be an hour and a half travel to and from the site each day, and to account for a full work day, they're including an additional 2 or 3 hours just for drive time. But this is a lump sum that they provided us, so we wouldn't expect to get any billing for additional hours.
At the bottom of that page, you have anticipated completion of the schedule. I didn't get to see that very clear. 23.
So the schedule, drill rigs are 2.5 months out, as they have outlined here. So their anticipation for the completion of this portion is about 19 weeks.
Talked about November, and sometimes at that elevation you end up with new snow.
Yeah.
That's the report coming out.
Yes. So their field work should be completed. The field work would be prior to that. So they're anticipating to have the driller obtained during the first week of October, and then they'll conduct their laboratory testing, and we'll do our consultation coordination between Keller Associates and Shannon and Wilson for implementation of the design alternatives. And that report they anticipate to have the report and the laboratory testing, and we'll have all that information. We anticipate to have it done by the 22nd of November is what they're hoping for the report.
So we do have winters when you have a snowfall in October, especially up that high. What do they do winter with snow?
Yeah. Well, if
till next year.
Construction wise, I think we're at least next year anyway.
Well, yeah, but I mean, what happens if they can't get their drill rig in there? Is it snow?
that would be something that, the mid, hope, the hope is that a driller would be available prior to October. It's an estimate that it's 2 to 2.5 months out, just because right now, not a lot of drillers, but a lot of drilling being required. So the hope would be that it would happen before then. As we approach October, it may be in the best interest to have another site visit, or we'll keep eyes on the area and snowfalls, and coordinate timing for the drill to be up there when they can access the site.
I guess we could be in there if it wasn't too deep plowed.
Yeah. I don't think we want to get to that point.
But I don't either. That's a rough stretch in there.
Lance, how much did you receive from the state? Was it 100,000? So this is going to overrun that considerably. Was that 100,000 what you requested, or is that just what they are? That was the maximum. That was the maximum they would like. Yeah. For emergency purposes, the maximum I could request was 100,000. We could also apply for that next year as well. Well, okay. I don't want to set a precedent, so Bonneville County is just going to pay whatever this costs to fix. I mean, you've got the other people come to the table to get this paid.
Once we know what it is, we're going to have to approach the delegation.
Yeah.
There's no real funding source for that, or we have to keep our regular schedule of what the funds to do it, and their lease is going to expire before the road's fixed. Anyway, yeah, guys okay with this?
Yeah.
I'll make a motion.
Make a motion that we what do we want to do, approve the contract and scope of work.
Contract and agreement for professional services.
Okay, and the agreement for professional services.
Okay. Second that. Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Hey, Jake, we'll get a copy of this and I'll get it back over to you.
Okay. If at any time anyone has any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm available.
Do you need a form specific for notice to proceed, or is a signed agreement good?
Prior to the meeting, I sent you an email with the finalized scope of work. I'd sent you the draft just minus the agreement. So this morning before the meeting, I sent you the scope of work with the agreement signed by Jim Mullen. If you put name and date on that, and we'll use that as a notice to proceed, and we'll get Shannon and Wilson out there and our surveyor scheduled.
Okay, that's what the commissioners are signing today.
Perfect. Absolutely. Yeah. So we'll get that. We'll start getting that scheduled and get this kicked off. And then I'll reach out to you, Lance, to coordinate, I don't know if yourself or some Bonneville County personnel for that initial site meeting so that we can come up, just address any safety concerns and,
There'll probably be a couple of us. So yeah, just coordinate.
Great. I'll be in touch about that. And so
Okay.
again, if there's any further questions, feel free to reach out to me.
Okay, thank you, Jake.
Thank you, gentlemen. You have a nice day.
Is Austin coming over today?
I haven't talked to him.
I don't know if he can answer. Got the other Austin here. Except it's the last name Austin, not the first name.
I don't know if you can hear him.
You must not hear me. Micah? He's looking through.
Yes, I can hear you.
Looking through the mute. What's up?
Good morning, Commissioner. Sorry I couldn't be there in person. I had a couple of issues come up this morning. I was trying to get out the door by 9:30, but as the minutes ticked away, I thought, you know what? I'm happy there's a Zoom option. So thanks for making that available. I just had a couple of updates for you all and then one question. I went to the URSID meeting yesterday and I didn't see anybody from Bonneville County there. So just had a couple of things I wanted to pass along from that meeting. URSID is now accepting all of their payments online, and they're doing that with a card or with an electronic check. And Bryon is strongly suggesting that all of our developers that need an URSID ERU to use that online portal, they can still go to the plant and pay with a check. And some developers and contractors are going to prefer that. But just so you guys can pass that along to your developers, that's the preferred method. They're also issuing certificates for all of the ERUs. In Ammon, that's what we're using to actually approve the review of a building permit. We need that certificate from URSID before we'll even start the review process. And we've been doing that for a while now, and it's actually worked pretty well. The only thing to note on the certificates is right now, Scott Berry is the only person at URSID that's able to issue certificates. So when he's out of town, which happens, he will issue those certificates when he's back in town. But if a developer needs to get started on a permit, then they're comfortable with us in Bonneville County and Bingham County accepting a receipt of payment in lieu of a certificate. And then when Scott's back in town, he can catch him up on the certificates. They also mentioned that Flagship Homes is finalizing some last minute details on annexing into the sewer district. If you remember, that's something they didn't do last time around with their Ammon application. And they actually had applied to annex the whole 600 acres into the sewer district, but the sewer district wouldn't allow it because they didn't own all 600 acres. And so they kind of rejected or sent back their application saying, when you own the property, we'll consider your application for annexation. So right now, Flagship is going through and closing on each one of those properties that they had under contract but didn't own yet. The other thing that came up at the meeting was an apartment complex in Ammon was requesting a reduction in their ERU fee. Commissioner Christensen, this will sound familiar to you. And they had all this data and all these numbers to back up why they should pay $600,000 less. And I honestly don't know where the current board is going to go on that. But just be aware that's a recurring discussion that seems to come up about every 5 years or so. And it's an apartment complex with, I forget the number, I think 280 or 250 apartments. And of course, they want to save some money on that. And so they feel like they should pay a lot less than one full ERU per unit.
Is that in Ammon?
It is, yeah. It's an apartment complex on Judy Street, just down the street from Cabela's.
I got a hunch what the sewer district will do.
Yeah, we hope in Ammon, we hope that they don't do anything. We hope that they stay with the current policy. It's easy to administer. It's fair, it's equitable. It doesn't require an engineered analysis. And we feel like that it's not broken. Why change it? So,
I don't think that they're going to be able to do that unless they completely
yeah.
redo their ordinance.
Yeah, and we support that position.
Bryon
Go ahead.
Bryon Powell was at this meeting, right?
Oh, yeah.
So when he says no one from Bonneville County, he's from
That seems Austin.
Yeah.
Or he's gone this week or something.
He was here yesterday, it's illegal.
With construction, our Ammon Road closure will probably open up next week. That's the plan. It's going smoothly. No issues so far on the project. So we're anticipating we'll work through the weekend and then have it open next Monday or Tuesday. And then that'll be it. We won't have any more road closures for the rest of the summer unless we have some kind of emergency that comes up. Lance, did you have any questions on that Ammon Road project that I can answer?
So is Tracy gonna give us a chance to maybe do a punch list walkthrough with the city of Ammon on that portion that's within the jurisdiction of Bonneville County?
Sure. I didn't quite hear that. You said you needed a punch list. Can you go over that again?
Well, if we can have an opportunity to meet out there with Tracy and do a punch list of things that are within the jurisdiction of Bonneville County, we'd appreciate it.
You got it. When would you like that?
Well, have Tracy just coordinate with either myself or John Tullis about when Tracy does his walkthrough, we'll try to be out there at the same time.
Okay. And do you want to do that this week before we try to open it back up?
Well, I would say if Tracy's gonna do it Thursday, then try to get John out there Thursday. I won't be around tomorrow, but John will.
You got it. I'll have Tracy get in touch with you to set that up.
Okay.
Any other questions on that project?
Not on that project. Has the city of Ammon finished the annexation of 45th East north of Sunnyside by that new development? You got the development on the northeast side of 45th and Sunnyside.
Yes, that one's complete.
So that annexation is complete on the roadway as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, that subdivision is called Crestwood Hills. It was originally called Rocking R when the Robertson family was taking it through the process. Robertson family sold it to Rockwell, and now Rockwell is developing that out.
Okay.
And what we're requiring of Rockwell is that they upgrade that entire stretch of Crowley to the full build out along their frontage there.
So is that a 5-lane build out or 3-lane?
I believe it's a 5-lane. I can have Tracy give you a call to coordinate that. Would that be helpful?
Yes, it would be.
You got it. Yeah, they need to move their poles way back on that project. As you can imagine, they've been a little bit resistant to that, but that's what they got to do.
You're talking Bryon Reed Power, right?
Yep. Yep. One more thing. Oh, go ahead.
That didn't surprise me.
Yeah. Yeah, and that one's a little tricky because that corner, the corner right there where there's those two houses, that's not part of that subdivision.
Yeah.
The subdivision is back from the corner, I don't know, 50 yards or so. And so that subdivision remains unplatted. And so those utilities are going to have to be moved twice there, once for Crestwood Hills, and then a second time once that corner is platted for commercial and that right of way is is given up for the city. So we spoke to Rocky Mountain Power about that. They don't like it either, but in their position, they said, well, it's the way it's got to be. So I guess the developer will have to pay to move that twice. Last thing for me, and this is just a question for the commissioners. We're moving forward on the area of impact agreement. I don't see Austin there today, but he's been super helpful, and I think we're getting somewhere with it. My question to you all is: would the commissioners consider a curtailment, temporary curtailment on developments within the Ammon area of impact until we get this agreement revised and finalized through the boards? And the reason I'm asking that is I'm concerned that, once it gets into the cycle, maybe my concerns are totally unfounded, but my concern is that if we agree on everything up front, it still might take us 12 months to get it through all the different required board approvals. So how do you all feel about that?
I feel like that's something we can't discuss because it's still at the P&Z level. We can't make a decision on that now.
Okay, fair enough. Then, just think about it. We're a little bit concerned about, if we're all on the same page with some of the things that are in that new the area of impact agreement, then it makes sense to us to just put things on hold until we have that agreement in place to make sure we do the right thing.
Well, the 12-month timeline doesn't, I think that the realistic timeline could be shorter if you get it scheduled and get it approved by the P&Z and the city council, and we'll expedite it on our end as soon as you can get it scheduled. I hope the city council would too.
Yeah, I think the city council would move it through pretty quickly too, and our P&Z commission.
Yeah. That's assuming everything is in an agreeable form and not a lot of changes from what the P&Z recommends.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Those are my updates and my one question. Any questions for me or anything Ammon can help you all out?
Yeah, where are you on that project that needed access east of Costco? Have they redesigned that?
Oh, you're talking about Riviera Park? Riviera Park across from Costco?
Yeah.
So that's approved. That's annexed. Lance, were you able to attend that last traffic commission meeting or that traffic study meeting?
I think I did. I can't remember exactly what it was, but I think I did. And at least on the accesses on Lincoln Road, that is being annexed by the city of Ammon.
Right.
Yes.
About the one on Hit Road, where that's going to enter Hit Road.
Yeah, so I haven't seen any redesign of that, but the northernmost access point was north of Costco's north access point.
Yeah, I just want
So
to.
we did talk about it, but I haven't seen much since then.
Yeah, and I talked to him about it as well. They're open to it because I got Austin's request to move that further north to align with where you guys were going. They didn't have any concerns with it. Honestly, that part of the project's not an issue. The conversation, and I think it's what Lance is saying, really focused around the accesses onto Lincoln and the access closer to that intersection. City of Idaho Falls was really opposed to the way they had Lincoln designed, but I think they're going to accept it because that access on a Lincoln will be a one-way in and one-way out with a concrete divider there. And so with that improvement, City of Idaho Falls was comfortable with it. The thing that continues to kind of shock us is that even though a traffic signal is warranted for that intersection, City of Idaho Falls still will not consider that. So it will stay around.
Why do they have any approval if the road is in Ammon?
Well, they don't. And they acknowledge that that's not their jurisdiction, but they did take up a lot of air about that. At the end, they just said, well, I guess we can support it as long as you've got a one-way out. Actually, I don't even think they said they supported it. You could correct me if I'm wrong, Lance, but they said that they could, they see the benefit of right in, right out with the concrete barrier. Yeah.
No further comment.
Any other questions I can help with?
Oh, I had one when you were talking about flagship going into the sewer district. Is that in the service area? They can annex with their agreement with Idaho Falls?
Well, the search is not WSD.
Oh, I thought you were talking IBSD, not used to the sewer district, meaning there's another sewer
There's another
district.
subdistrict. I think he's talking Ursa is getting in it.
Yeah.
Okay, I get it.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so they're still on track to annex into the city of Ammon.
As far as we know, do you guys know anything different?
No, haven't heard a word until you brought it up today. So.
And we've met with them twice, and what they told us is that that's still their plan. They want to annex into Ammon, but they wanted to get their sewer approvals in line first. I agree with that. That's the right thing to do. You know, when their project came through the first time and the second time, they hadn't even spoken to the sewer district. And that was one reason why the city council turned them down. So I think they're doing the right thing now, but the sewer district, like I said, they're requiring that they own that property prior to requesting annexing into it, which has created some more complications for them. But again, I think that's the right decision as well.
Plus, they legally have to own it before they can annex it.
Yeah.
You know, that's more of a technical thing.
So the other issue that comes up with that flagship is the city or the county is seeing a proposal to rezone some property that's adjacent to where flagship is going to be, and that's Curtis Ward, and they are going through the process right now. So it will be adjacent, and I have made comments about access east, west, north, and that's something we're still looking at. But flagship is, when they do this, they're looking at impacting a bunch of roads outside of that immediate area. And we may be talking with the city of Ammon about annexing some additional stretches of road that may not be adjacent to flagship.
Okay. Yeah, we're aware of that rezone request. And they are just barely not contiguous to the city of Ammon. I mean, I think they're separated by, I think it's one lot, just the width of one single residential lot.
Yeah, that's about right.
Okay, thanks, Micah.
Thank you all. Appreciate being here.
We're done with the official part.
Well, I've got some,
Oh,
the official part, but I've got some other things go.
Yeah, first, before we stop recording, let's talk about the sludge out west. So, I was gonna try to bring it up here. I don't see where they're dumping it. They're just dumping it out in the bar pit.
That's what Preston
I don't
made
think
it
that's
sound like.
not out to that area. I understood it was in that area. So what can we do about it? I guess that's the question. What are we gonna do?
So yesterday when I found out about it, and after Preston come back with some pictures, I did call the city of Idaho Falls code enforcement. And they had people out looking at it as well, but the facility is in the city of Idaho Falls.
Still is in our jurisdiction, not the city's.
Well, the facility itself is in the city jurisdiction,
Yeah.
but they're just dumping it on county road jurisdiction. So
So it's ours, the spill is in our jurisdiction.
Yep, they're gonna use that as a reason for us to have to deal with it. And I seem to remember when, one of your predecessors used some leachate sludge to water down
yeah,
Sunnyside
that
Hill
was
and EPA and DEQ. I would assume they would act the same way here, because this is far worse than that was.
And who lets them know? I mean, do they already know? I do.
Yeah.
Data and
That's
information,
the part that's, I mean, when they're spilling it on our roadways,
unintentionally dumping it on county right of way.
well, can't say intent, allegedly.
Well, they go out and open the head gate and stop, and then that's pretty intentional.
You gotta prove that though.
Yeah.
I will let DEQ know
Yes.
immediately.
And are we been, I guess it'll be up to DEQ then, if they require cleanup, or what are we gonna do about it?
Well, let's hope that's what they require. Because that all goes back to the spiller.
Should.
Yes.
Should we, as Bonneville County, contact Falls and tell them to stop probably right now? Would you do that as well?
I could do it, but I told them before stuff and they ignored me.
I would be
first.
Do I need to
Writing, do it in writing, whoever contacts them, do it in writing.
I'll write them a letter too, but I request a letter from the commissioners as well.
Who is it?
Notification first.
I don't have that off the top of my head just because it's a city of Idaho Falls
So
facility.
it's the Balls Buffalo plant?
I'm not even sure what it, I thought it was called different. Intermountain Packing is what I knew it as, but I'm not sure if that's the proper name.
Okay.
But I'll put together a letter to send you a draft. So,
Why don't you, and then I'll follow mine based on you. You know more of the details than I do, so yeah, I'll play off of your letter and we'll send a letter to the commissioners. But I'm gonna make a phone call today.
Okay. Okay. I sent Commissioner Reed some information about a dragger and a lease option that I did not have when we put together the capital improvement information for it. I wanted to kind of get the commissioner's thought on, do we try to fit this into our capital improvement plan as a lease, or do we, I mean, the purchase price is 1.1 million. I don't know that we want to mess up everything in that capital improvement, but if this is a lease option, we can do it in lease. It's just the budget itself needs to be adjusted slightly to deal with that.
Did we account for the revenue that this will generate in that capital improvement?
We tried to do it for a couple of months, but I'm not sure that we have a year's worth of revenue.
Well, we've got to determine if we're going to continue this lease with that grinder.
So this is, it's a lease purchase for a grinder, and it's significantly less than the 48,000 that we've done. But it still, it commits us to four years, and it was not in the capital improvement plan or the budget that we had before. Didn't have the information.
Replacement was.
The replacement was for a different thing, I think, wasn't it?
Well, I think you had a line item in there to build up to replace that.
And at one point, we'd taken that out.
We'll have to get Ron over here.
Yeah, I don't remember either, but regardless, from the numbers I saw, this pays for itself.
It pays for itself in certain months. I'm not sure that it can be a 12-month pay for itself.
Yeah, that's.
We just have to go through and adjust that on projects and stuff.
And this would, well, it would be in the rental line item budget versus the capital improvements budget.
I don't think we have a choice. I think this is the best deal.
So the 48-month, 15-hour, 100 hours is 28,000 a month.
A portion of the fee that would be going into the capital part of it would have to be used to support the fee budget.
And that's where I wanted to make sure
There will be, I know they're in the process of putting things together, when Penny gets back. Before we publish, we'll need to sit down with Ron and make any adjustments on what we authorized to publish. Because we went through and reworked that spreadsheet. Remember how there was a line, those two lines on the top were separated, but they weren't part of the total down there.
yeah.
Because if you look, when we looked across that, we were still keeping the 8-1
And that wasn't.
and actually building it up. And it wasn't clear. So when we went through and adjusted that, that suggested a fee of 110 to keep that level. So, but we can go through that again. That's probably next week. We have to do it. So we'll try to put it all over here on Wednesday.
Lance, do we have sure knowledge? Do we have proof that that sludge is coming from Intermountain Packing? Did they follow him back to the source?
Preston followed it from when it got onto Iona Road, it followed it all the way.
All the way to Intermountain Packing?
Well, he essentially got it, he didn't go back to Intermountain Packing, but it was pretty clear to him that like it's coming, but I will verify that that's where the trail starts.
What, take a picture of the truck?
He didn't have a picture of the truck, there was nothing, there was no license plate, there was no truck there, it was just the
Just follow
trail.
the waste trail.
Yes,
He was just following the trail.
yeah.
Well, if there's a violation, that's serious. It might be one of those, if they deny it, we get the sheriff to investigate. Because they are creating a liability for the county. Unless we can, of course, it's a little like with the sewer district, when somebody came in the middle of the night and dumped that cleaning solution. And that's one of those things that if you've got a good lead like that, then the sheriff goes in and puts them on the record for denying it. And then, because what they had planned on doing on the sewer is once they were on the record, then you could actually get them in, file some type of an action or under oath.
They would do such a irresponsible thing, just take it out there and
Where's my trim?
dump it in a bar pit. I mean, that sounds like
Your
something
city
a farmer
or
would do.
down and you would pick up instead.
That's just, I mean, a business like that, Paul Brothers,
But the city concern is, I think we need to put some kind of pressure on the city to get in there and help us clean it up if they're taking it outside. They can't just, the spill is in your jurisdiction.
Well, and that's why I called the code enforcement, and they were getting the information together and going to their city attorney and starting, and I asked them to coordinate with us, and I haven't heard anything back today.
But DEQ is a great motivator on that.
If it's all right, if you guys don't have Brad call and ask some questions about the hazardous material spill. I personally asked him whether it qualifies under the state jurisdiction for hazardous waste. Biohazardous waste
what
and waste.
classification, do you know the classification?
That's why we did talk to Brad and see. I think it's more than a class 3 dependent spill, but that's certain. They make all the other notifications. They make notification to DEQ, but so I'm going to call Brad right now and ask him on that. So it's good idea.
Yeah.
I got a few other things.
Oh,
Sorry. The roadhouse driveway, I got numbers back. Tuesday, there was 197 trips in and out. Wednesday, there was 200. Thursday, there was 174. Friday, there was 166.
So that's just a few more than the 6 to 8 that they were bound by.
I don't know what they were bound by, but that's the traffic count. It does have ADTs on here, but it was started in Monday afternoon, and it went through the weekends. Of course, the weekends were a lot lower, so the ADT on here on the back sheet it says the ADT was 125, but that counted in only 20 on Saturday, and they had,
I'll get that.
5 on Sunday.
That goes into the permitting side of it.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Paint truck, our paint truck is dead in the water. We can't get it to run. We've been trying everything. And so I'm at a point of we either get a new one or we contract it out. Last year we contracted it out. This year, because it was 167%, we said we'll try to make it work again, but it's not working.
What's the contract amount?
The contract amount was about, I think it was gonna be close to $60,000.
Compared to its operating?
Well, yeah,
Because that's what I wondered, long term, I want to look at the contract for that. So those are pretty high maintenance.
they are high maintenance and they're very expensive stuff for sitting around 10 months a year.
Yeah, I should have contacted somebody to figure it out.
And if we contract out, that's great. It just changes my budget a little bit.
Well, the changes again from the C to a B.
Yeah.
A long term.
Yeah.
So I say, your budget is still under construction.
I know.
But we're getting closer.
Yeah.
So maybe we look at that with Ron and kind of adjust your spreadsheets on that capital.
And that was, honestly, we didn't really have that in the capital heavy just because it was a piece of equipment. It's like, do I put this in here or not? Because if I buy it, it's like $600,000. It should last for a long time, but it's a one-time type of expenditure that,
You need, but that's part of that.
yeah,
Each level pay capital line is.
as long as we had it in there and when to actually purchase it.
Or basically and shovels and priorities when you do some of those things. Maybe Blair gets to do pickup every 10 years.
It's not Blair. It's Road Bridge, not that. Okay, chip seal, they started chip seal this week. They've done 101st North, 75th East, they're on 65th East, and they'll move over to Foothill today and keep going. Have about 3.5 weeks scheduled for chip seal. So if you get complaints about
I was
us,
gonna say 2 months worth of complaints.
yeah. You get complaints about us turning roads into gravel roads again. Just don't know why.